Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali on TV1.
And a very good evening to you and a warm welcome to Newsline Live. I'm in conversation this evening with Member of Parliament, Mr. Gajendrakumar Ponnambalam from the TNPF. Good evening, welcome to Newsline Live.
Thank you very much.
Now then, in the sea of various troubles, including deep unhappiness about the mandate of the current government, the President included, and the President calling for a national government from everyone to come forward. Do you think the minority parties are going to walk the talk with the President?
No, I think, he does suffer very greatly from this credibility issue for us. And as far as the Tamil parties are concerned, I won't try to talk of the Muslims or the upcountry Tamil parties, but certainly as far as the northeastern Tamil parties are concerned, on several key issues, he has not only not in any way delivered, but on the contrary, his government has acted in ways that have pushed the boundaries back. On the question of, for example, the archaeological department's destruction of ancient Tamil worship sites, which is rampant, from the question of political prisoners, from the question of continued land grabs, both by the military and by the government for various reasons. So all of these are continuing apace. So you have on the one hand President Wickremesinghe calling for not only an all-party conference, I mean that is one thing, but trying to say that he's for reconciliation and negotiations. But on the ground, the realities are actually going counter to that.
So 2009, the hostilities ceased. What real progress have the people in the north and the northeast, in the former conflict areas, what real progress have they had?
Well, apart from the fact that lives are not being lost.
Right.
On every other indicator, my view is that things have either been stagnant or it has got worse. If you take the economy, the fact that you've had 13 to 14 years after the war, it was a war zone, the Northeast was a war zone for over 30 years. There was an economic embargo for us. We're talking about petrol prices and diesel prices hitting the 500s now. In 2001, a litre of petrol in the Northeast was 1,500 rupees. Right? So, I mean, because there was this embargo. And anything that was banned, obviously the prices were just ridiculous. So when you have a situation like that for almost 30 years, when you come out of the war, you need some form of policy that protects those people's economy, because they can't compete with the rest of the country. So we have been advocating that the governments, whichever government, must recognize the vulnerability of those people's economy. That was never done. So we are not really protectionists, but in these circumstances, when the disparity is so great, you need to look at those.
For people who have had over 30 years of real hardship, be it whether it is from the LTT or from the government forces, certainly the bulk of these people, our brothers and sisters in that area, they had a tough life, whichever way you want to look at it. So in that context, how much of this anti-terrorism bill is of concern over there in the northeast?
It's hugely of concern. I mean, if you look at the PTA is what has been devastating in the Northeast for the last so many decades. This anti-terrorism law, it I think is now a common knowledge, is 100 times worse. It makes a permanent state of emergency if it's passed, and the draconian nature of the PTA is made much worse because you're bringing down the sort of bar. I mean, one can't understand why this is happening unless and only because the government is extremely insecure. I mean, I for one can't see how the government can go through with it and explain it to the international community, which already says that the current PTA is unacceptable. So what probably the government thinks is that they can show a worse sort of document, and then when there is this huge opposition, then they withdraw that, but allow the PTA to carry on because they will say, you know, we can't continue with a vacuum. And carry on with the PTA and continue to sort of use it as they have been doing for just normal, protests.
But do you believe that we need some form of anti-terrorism laws, or is it enough to tweak the existing penal code?
No, in fact, the opposition, all the parties in the opposition have been having discussions over the last couple of days. And one of the things that we are looking at is with regards to this anti-terrorism law and, you know, what the common position ought to be. And we have been advocating, not only the Tamil parties, but also there are some southern-based parties of the same view, is that we don't need any anti-terror law. There is obviously the Social Security Act where emergency can be declared. And the executive can make regulations, and those regulations will also be, there will be oversight because it has to come to Parliament every month. And it is, whilst there might be some sort of severe regulations that are needed from time to time, if the need arises, at least there will be this oversight by Parliament, and there will be a sense of accountability.
But do you find it, how ironic do you find the fact that President Wickremesinghe is known, or is said to be known, as this ultimate Democrat, the vice president at one point of the IDU, and so on and so forth. And really, every time I read the press or watch the news, I'm wondering whether this is the same person. How do you people as politicians cope with this situation?
Well, I must say the sort of anti-democratic sort of slide is surprising to me as well. But with regards to his credibility, our party, even in 2015, were not willing to accept his word because, I was a member of Parliament in 2001 at the height of the peace process. I was a strong supporter within the TNA at that time. I was a part of the TNA. I was a strong supporter of at that time Prime Minister Wickremesinghe when he had a hostile president in Gajendrakumar Ponnambalam. When she was rocking the boat, I was within the party strongly supporting, backing him, getting the TNA to back him. And on several other issues that he had committed to in the form of the ceasefire agreement with regards to creating conditions of normalcy in the northeast, when there was a ceasefire, when it was the honeymoon period, right? He never delivered. He had an excuse for everything. And Chandrika was the easiest excuse. Pointing to Chandrika and saying that, she will rock the boat, so I can't do a whole list of things that he just rejected. So that, you can't be partners with people like that. There has to be at some point some sort of risk taken. So our party, even in 2015, when everybody was, upbeat with the so-called Yahapalna government, our party was not willing to go along with that. But President Wickremesinghe, obviously, in this sort of reincarnation, is is even for us has obviously taken us by surprise by his quite frankly authoritarian tilt.
Back in 2013, Navi Pillay, the United Nations person, she described the situation in Sri Lanka as a growing authoritarianism, and that the UN were deeply disturbed by that.
What year? What year was that?
2013. It's the year that I was shot, and in response to my shooting, where I was working at the Sunday Leader, her statement contained the words that she was deeply disturbed at a growing sense of authoritarianism in Sri Lanka. Why don't we see those kind of statements today? Because we had the Easter bombings, and there's obviously a lot of different sort of explanations about that. But there is one explanation that no one can deny. 272 people died, including foreigners, and over 500 people have life-changing injuries and have to live with that. People confined to the rest of their lives in bed, and so on and so forth, children without parents, and so on. Completely devastating. And yet, when we see the makings of this other, I think it's nearly a joke, the anti-terrorism bill, the international community is not very vociferous, are they?
No, I agree. Our take is, for us, that particularly Western countries, I think, will probably when they look at the whole picture, they probably feel they probably feel nervous because the protests, the Aragalaya, a significant faction of the Aragalaya that was very effective, that was very sort of that was very successful in mobilizing.
Yeah.
Tends to reject the whole system completely. They reject parliament. They reject Sri Lanka's constitution. So when you have such a force, and the country also economically being in the situation that it is, where people are quite apart from whether they are happy or not with regards to the democracy or lack of it. The fact that they can't make ends meet, things can slide down very, very quickly. I think there is a lot of cynicism. My take is that things are quiet not because they're happy with the government. Quite the contrary. I think people can't protest because they can't afford to go out and protest. They can't. Yeah, they need to be working. Coming from the Northeast, where we are used to dealing with victim communities, that is very, very recognizable even in the South now. So I think, so I'm pretty certain that most of these missions also realize that. And unfortunately for us, that is those who want to see a radical change and a sort of a new start, the reaction by these by the international community would be, let's not rock the boat. You see, so when you have a good opportunity to actually bring about change, because people really want something new, this worry that change can go amiss, and it can bring in sort of forces that take things completely out of the sort of parameters that everybody is used to and comfortable with, would probably get this sort of backlash where there is complete inertia with regards to issues that we would think ought to be taken up quite seriously.
On that note, let's go for a quick break and take a peek at this evening's headline news from the Primetime News team. And we'll see you on the other side of the break. We are, of course, in conversation with Mr. Gajendrakumar Ponnambalam, a Member of Parliament. See you on the other side.
Newsfirst Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali. on TV1. TV1. TV for life.
President says IMF is the only option and there is no alternative. President also says domestic debt restructuring is a must.
මම ඒකට පසුබට උනේ නැහැ. රට විනාශ නොවි රට ගොඩ ගන්න අපි ක්‍රියා කරා.
Opposition leader slams those responsible for delaying IMF program.
අවුද IMF එකට යන්න එපා. ඒක දේශද්‍රෝහී, රාජද්‍රෝහී. රට පාවා දෙනවා. රට විනාශ කරනවා කිව්වේ කවුද කිව්වේ? මේකෙකුටවත් එකක්වත් තේරෙන්නේ නැහැ. දැන් ජනාධිපතිතුමා කියන දේට අත උස්සනවා.
7 senior DIGs given transfers. Ajit Rohana and Priyantha Veerasurya question the move. Sri Lanka files lawsuit in Singapore to secure compensation for Express Pearl disaster. Activists question identity of Chamara Gunasekara. 9 tremors recorded over 4 months in Sri Lanka. Experts say Sri Lanka is not in danger of any major quake. Dimut, Madhushka and Kusal power Sri Lanka to commanding position against Ireland.
TV1. TV for life. Newsfirst Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali on TV1.
And welcome back to Newsline Live. I am in conversation with Mr. Gajendrakumar Ponnambalam, Member of Parliament from the TNPF. Forgive me with all these acronyms, don't know. But there's an important question to ask you. You've just told us about the deep unhappiness, the deep concern about the anti-terrorism bill, the lack of real progress out in the former conflict areas. Tell me, on the 18th is this Mulli Vaikul Day. What do you expect? What will happen there? Will it be a small turnout? Will it be a large turnout? What do you think?
No, it's always been a large turnout. I mean, they've even despite the fact that earlier previous governments have cracked down. They've issued, they've got the police to go and get court orders. But despite all of that, there has always been a pretty big turnout.
And this time, is there any moves to sort of ban it?
No, I don't think. I mean, Ranil Wickremesinghe's record has been that he's more or less turned a sort of blind eye, or he's loved it. And this time, I think we'll probably have a turnout which is even more than the last time.
Why do you think that is? Is that another way of their dissatisfaction?
Yes, I mean, just in general, Faraz, I mean, the Northeast, the only way that they can in some way try and bring out their frustrations and sort of demonstrate that, we are forgotten and we don't want to be forgotten is by, taking part in these sort of activities, and Mulli Vaikul, obviously, because of the symbolicism of practically every family losing someone, will definitely be one of those occasions when everybody comes out.
A few years ago when I went there, it was all very, it was all very peaceful. And there wasn't a policeman in sight.
Right.
Even the parking was all handled by the people.
Yeah.
And it was all very, very well. And I noticed that people were well turned out. They made an effort to dress up and so on. And I suppose they are paying their own tribute and respect to and remembering the people whom they've lost. So I'm happy that there are no signs. Although you say his track record is good, although this time round he's backed by members of government who in the past wanted it cracked down and sort of stopped.
Yeah, but then, I mean, President Wickremesinghe is very good at choosing. So he will, now, ultimately for us, going to Mullivaikal and what essentially is going to be a mass mourning exercise.
Yeah.
That is something to do with emotion. Right? It's a right, but it's also primarily to do with emotion. And Mr. Wickremesinghe is very good at allowing those things. But when it comes to actual, substance in trying to show progress on, say, let's say, finding a political solution, or to find sort of progress with regards to accountability, nothing happens. So he picks and chooses. That is our experience with him. The Rajapaksas were the complete opposite. I mean, they allowed nothing. Right. So for them, it was just completely a blanket refusal to allow anything.
With their track record, such as it may be, what chances for them do you think in the future?
Who?
The Rajapaksas. Are they done and dusted? What do you think? What's your feeling as a politician?
At the moment, yes. But I mean, with politics, you can never say. The most popular people get thrown out in 2 years.
Yeah. Okay.
And the same, the complete reverse could also happen. So this is it. I mean, what we are saying is that if we truly believe that what happened, whether it be with regards to the economy, the management of the country in general, or whether it be with regards to the way in which lives were lost during the war or whatever.
Or during this tragedy.
Or if you don't, if you don't take the sort of steps, the bold steps that have to be taken at the right time, then, I mean, you allow this sense of hopelessness to sink in. And then the people, will ultimately decide that, this is the sort of hand that has been served, and we're stuck with it. I think that is the danger. I mean, for people who truly believe that if you don't change, that this country is not going to move forward, it is actually going to slide back. And if, then it is pretty frightening to see, what's happening.
Gaj, can I take you to this announcement that the central bank has authorized or permitted the Indian rupee to be a currency, a transactional currency, meaning that in Sri Lanka we can accept Indian rupees for payment and the other way around too. Is this the end of an independent Sri Lanka in terms of our choices for economy and so on? Is it a good idea? Is it a bad idea? How do you see it? What happens to our non-aligned bit?
No, I think the the policy of looking at the Indian rupee, it's more a matter of necessity. I don't think that it is something that generally would have been agreeable. Sri Lanka's track record has been, particularly when it comes to India, has been to keep a sort of cautious distance. But if this is acceptable, then it only shows that that is the state of the country's economy. Sri Lanka can't afford to sort of not go down the path of finding alternatives to the dollar. And if India's policy is also that they would like their currency to get that recognition, I'm pretty certain that there will be enough leverage being put. So I see it as a matter of necessity. My sort of take on general sort of singular, Buddhist nationalist sort of political nationalism would actually be, would be revolting if this had been suggested maybe 3 years ago.
They wouldn't have made the front pages of any paper because they wouldn't have allowed it.
Exactly. But it's not going to make a big deal now because I think people realize that a lot has to change.
You know, at the ground level, how much do you find that people are completely cheesed off? Is there a realization, even now, you know, in this ambience of the no eggs, can't buy eggs, too expensive, you know, making ends meet and all that? Do people down at the ground level, when you meet your constituents, are they aware that corruption at a huge level has actually resulted in this nation's bankruptcy?
Yes.
They do.
Yes. This is why I say, I mean, I think the sort of, the calm that we are facing now, or that we are experiencing now, should not be mistaken to acceptance. Or, in fact, thinking that the present government is doing the right thing. My take, is that actually it is just that people can't afford to come out and protest. If in fact the converse is true, President Wickremesinghe will be the first one who will want to face an election.
Indeed.
He'll be the last person, if his instincts are to be a Democrat. He'll be the last person who wants anti-terror law in the way that he's trying to bring them. So every other sort of indicator suggests that he himself and the government knows that there is so much of anger and frustration, and just a sense of things simmering and being kept bottled up, rather than it being the opposite, which is that they find that things are improving and everybody is very happy.
And finally, I think we've got about 2.5 minutes. So I'd like to ask you, isn't communal politics a bestseller to attract the votes?
But I think so as far as the Northeast is concerned, ideally it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
But when you have the majority taking up identity politics and insisting that Sri Lanka is exclusive to a particular community, then everybody else is forced to, in some way, put their identity out there as well. So I don't think that necessarily qualifies because it's popular. I think as far as certainly the Northeast, now take our party for us, the All Ceylon Tamil Congress was seen by the ITAK or the Federal Party, which was a breakaway. Mr. Chelvanayagam broke away from the Tamil Congress and formed the Federal Party. The Federal Party became the most popular party because the Tamil Congress used to sort of reject the notion of nationalism. Right? They believed in a Sri Lankan identity whilst protecting each of our separateness. So when you come from a party like that, that today says that, look, no, if we don't put the Tamilness there and if we don't emphasize that, then it's a question of the dominant narrative just sort of overriding. That's the experience that we face. But in the South, unfortunately, what you said is, I think, true. That's it depends on which way you want to look at it. But that's if you want to look at it as, you want a sort of civic nationalism in the country, that you want liberal values and all of that, then obviously, in that sense, Sri Lanka has failed and is failing and getting worse and worse every day.
Gajendrakumar Ponnambalam, thank you very much for being on Newsline Live. Much appreciate your time and effort. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's the way it was, ladies and gentlemen, on Newsline Live. Take care. Have a great evening, as much as you can, I suppose. And, as always, God bless you all. It's now time for the Primetime News.